Christina. I am Whilst Iris Naps on Instagram and Whilst Iris Naps Designs, and this is a video about cross stitch. Back for video number 2, a little later than I'd planned, but national lockdown number 3 and homeschooling 3 children has kind of thwarted plans somewhat. But I'm here now trying to get this video filmed in between lunchtime and snack time, so I reckon that gives me around 15 minutes if I'm lucky, so I need to get cracking. I wanted to start by saying a huge thank you to those that watched video number 1, those that liked, subscribed, commented. I read each and every comment and thoroughly enjoyed doing so. Our daughter Iris said to me, "Mum, are you replying to all of the comments? Oh, you're such a noob." No, I'm not done with the kids. I have no idea what that means, but I'm going to take it as a compliment, so thank you very much, Iris. I also wanted to, if you could bear with me a few moments, just say a big thank you to those that gave me a shout out either on their own FlossTube channels or their Instagram account. I've written them down just so I don't forget anybody. I did have show notes in video number 1 and barely referred to them, and as a consequence forgot lots of things that I needed to say and had to edit them in at the end. I'm going to try not to do that for this video, so let's see how that goes, shall we? So in no particular order, Rebecca Hedgerow Stitching. Rebecca is in Cornwall, and I have a beautiful sampler from Maker in Cornwall, stitched in 1781, and I promised Rebecca last year that I would be reproducing her and haven't got around to it yet. Rebecca, I need to master Queen Stitch and then she can be reproduced and released, okay? I promise. Pam and Steph Just Keep Stitching. Pam and Steph's FlossTube channel was the first that I ever watched, and I don't think I've ever missed a week's episode. They never fail to make me smile or giggle. Nicola Bumble Stitches. Nicola sits in a gorgeous conservatory and is surrounded by twittering garden birds when she's filming her videos, and yet I have doves flying headfirst into my window. So a little bit jealous, Nicola. Michelle, Mama Loves You GB. Michelle got us all through a difficult December, I think, with her daily videos, and unfortunately she couldn't be convinced to carry on those videos into January. But she is doing a weekly briefing on a Sunday, so thank you, Michelle. Audrey Stitchywitch 42. Love Audrey's dark stitching. Her Halloween stitching is right up my street. Brenda and Laura. Brenda and the Cereal Starter. I've never met Brenda and Laura, obviously, but I feel that if I ever do, we will be the best of friends, whether they want that friendship or not. But seriously, from the moment I released my first chart, Emily Harben, they have been so incredibly supportive, and I will never forget that. Sharon, my friend Sharon, who is Shaz Bruce on Instagram. Sharon has just finished Happy Piper. Oh, Sharon's stitching is perfect, but her photography is absolutely spot on as well. And I know I've shared her photograph of Happy Piper 1819 on my Instagram account already, but I'm going to insert a photograph here too because it's beautiful. And last, but by no means least, my stitchy BFF, April, who is April May June Stitcher. I messaged April the night before I posted my first video and said, I don't think I can do it. I don't like how I look, I don't like how I sound, I don't like that I say absolutely 84 times, and what if it's just you and my mum that view it? How embarrassing would that be? And she said, Christina, just to post the video, and I'm pleased I did. So thank you, April. Right, on to stitching. What I thought I would do is keep the format fairly similar to video number 1, in as much as I would share some stitching from the archives, some recent finishes and FFOs, and I'd like to chat to you about 2 of my samplers. One that has been released before and a new release. So stitching from the archives, I have another Lavender and Lace and Mirabilia to show, and these are both from my mum and dad's house. We were able to see them on Christmas Day for one day, and I was going around their bungalow saying, I'll take that one to show in a video, I'll have that one, oh, and I'll take that one. So I've left my mum and dad with bare walls, but don't worry, they will be returned. First one is Mirabilia's Nouveau sampler, and I'll see if I can get her in. The reason she is at my mum and dad's house is because when I finished her, I just wasn't that keen, to be perfectly honest. I love the lady, I love the butterflies, the alphabet is okay, but I'm just not a fan of the house and the garden at the top there. Ironically, when I was getting set up for this video this morning, Iris had never seen this one before, and she said, Mum, I think this is my favourite, and I love the house and garden at the top. You can't win. I didn't enjoy stitching the top part, which probably doesn't help matters, but I think if I were to ever stitch it again, I would just do the lady's face. I think she would be lovely framed, and I have actually stitched the butterflies as ornaments, and they do look lovely. Oh, she's heavy. This one, full disclosure, I didn't actually stitch this. This is one that my mum stitched. I could have got away with it. She has stitched her name and the title of the chart, but my mum is Christine, and obviously I'm Christina, so I think I could have got away with saying this is mine. But she stitched this about 25 years ago, and I still love the frame. I really like how it's triple mounted, and then that the framer put these gold candlesticks there. Sorry for the glare. So this is Gift of Peace by Lavender and Lace. I have stitched the Spirit of Christmas. Now I always feel like the Spirit of Christmas is a pair for the Gift of Peace. I don't think it was intended as such, but I stitched the Spirit of Christmas for my auntie for her 70th birthday, and when I'm able to, I will get that one to show in a future video. Okay, so recent finishes and FFOs. First up is Waiting for the Harvest by Blackbird Designs. I stitched this on 32 count amber linen from Permin and Gentle Arts dark chocolate. Put my initials there obviously, and then a little symbol on the back with the year. And then the trim is just ruched ribbon. Now I used my Reward of Merit pincushion chart, but this chart is actually in the new booklet from Blackbird Designs, Winds of Autumn. I've been waiting for that design for such a long time. I've never finished a strawberry before, but I can't wait to do that one. I understand it's huge. And my second FFO, there is a common theme to these FFOs. I stitched them both as exchanges last year and had giver's remorse, so I had to stitch them again for myself. So this is, or is similar to, a cloche, or cloche as I say, because I'm very northern. A cloche that I made for April for our Halloween exchange last year. I stitched just a little symbol from the Casting a Spell booklet from Blackbird, and then they are just another Button Company pins. And I'll put in a photograph of the one that I made for April. My next finish is a Valentine chart, which is a freebie from the Primitive Hair. And I don't know if you can see the sparkle, but I stitched this on 32 count opalescent fabric. I think it's just a natural linen, and used DMC 815. And then popped a heart on the back and then the date in the corner. And the trim is chenille trim from Lady Creates. I'll put the link in the drop down box for the freebie. So that takes the grand total of my Valentine finishes to 2. This is a tiny chart that I designed and stitched last year. And then I have one more finish, although I haven't fully finished it. But this is the letter E from the Owl Forest Embroidery Merry Christmas ornaments. If you haven't seen them already, do go and have a look at their website. The way that they finish them is absolutely fabulous, and I'm going to try and copy that if I can. I didn't use the call for fabric and threads. I used 36 count Patriots Brew from Reproductions. And my threads are Weeks Dye Works. I went for a pinkier red, this is garnet, and then I used chestnut, juniper and grits. Okay, so samplers. Now, if you are not a fan of samplers that use bright colours, you may wish to avert your eyes now, because the 2 samplers I'm about to show, the stitches both used rather bold choices when it came to colour. First up, we have a Scottish sampler, Anne Logan 1840, and this is a chart that I released about 3 months ago now. As you can see, Anne didn't hold back when it came to her colour choices, especially that red in the orange. I'm just going to flick it over there, because the colours are even more vivid on the reverse. So I think it's fairly obvious to see what attracted me to Anne's sampler. But also, my mum's maiden name is Logan. So when I bought the sampler, I did joke with my mum, imagine if Anne is an ancestor of ours. Now, hold that thought. I'm going to speak in a bit more detail about that later. Let me show you my reproduction first. As you can see, I stitched it on a much higher count. I stitched the reproduction on 36 count Winter Brew from R&R Reproductions, and I used Weeks Dye Work threads. Anne was another stitcher who made my research nice and easy by stitching her parents and her siblings' initials in age order. So we have Thomas Logan, Anne's dad. We have Anne, her mum. Now, Anne's maiden name, I'm going to pop it across the screen here. I messaged my friend Lainey, who is Scottish, Lainey Main on Instagram, and said to her, Lainey, how do I pronounce this surname? And it wasn't a surname that either she or her husband was familiar with. So if you Google the surname, it does appear to be localised to the town that Anne was born in, which was Maybole in Ayrshire. Anyway, I'm going to go with McLuhan, unless somebody tells me otherwise. So we have Anne McLuhan, Anne's mum, and as you can see, Anne stitched in black. She unfortunately had passed away the year before. We have Elizabeth Smith, Elizabeth with an S, and this is Thomas's new wife. They get married the year the sampler is stitched. I think the sampler was probably stitched to commemorate the union. And perhaps I'm romanticising things a little, but the fact that Anne has stitched Elizabeth's initials in a pretty pink thread, and Anne actually went on to name one of her daughters Elizabeth with an S. I do think that this was a union that Anne approved of. But we also have Mary Logan, Jane Logan, James Logan, William Logan and Thomas Logan. There were 2 further sons, Andrew and John, born to Elizabeth, Anne's stepmom. So a little bit more about Anne. She was 13 when she stitched the sampler in Coylton, Ayrshire. She married a farmer at 22 years of age. He was William Boyd, and they went on to have 11 children of their own, including a set of twins, David and Agnes. She lived to the grand old age of 86, and she died just 1 day short of her 87th birthday. So why do I think that there could be a link between my family and Anne's? When I was doing my research, I found a photograph of Thomas Boyd, who was Anne Logan's son, and he looked very familiar to me. Now, I remembered that my mum had a photograph of my great-great-great-grandfather, who was Francis James Logan, and in doing a little bit more research on that side of our family tree, the Logan side, I discovered that he was born in Maybole, the same town as Anne's mum, just a few years apart. And Anne's dad, Thomas Logan, was born in Dalrymple, just a few miles down the road. I think there is quite a family resemblance between the 2 photographs, but I'm going to insert them here and let me know what you think. I do have a genealogist looking into the family connection for me, and she believes that my ancestor, Francis James Logan, and Anne's granddad were first cousins, but she's finding it difficult to get it in black and white for me because that particular Logan family emigrated over from Ireland the generation before, so births, baptism records are a little sketchy, but as soon as I know for definite, I will let you know. And finally, my new release, Miss Amelia Ellis, 1887. I did warn you about the colours. I love the vase of flowers at the bottom of the sampler there, and the font that Amelia chose to stitch her alphabet in. It doesn't look as though the original sampler has ever been framed, so I went with rather a bold choice for my reproduction. It's not typically late Victorian, is it? But taking into consideration the colours that Amelia chose for her sampler, I'd like to think that if she were here today, it's a frame that she would approve of. And she has a lovely story. Amelia was born on Christmas Eve, 1874, in Isleworth, London, which is just a few miles from where my husband is from, so we know the area quite well. She was one of 8 children, born to Peter Ellis and Sarah Oliver. And by the time Amelia is 12, the family has moved some 20 miles to Mickleham in Surrey, and it's here at the local national school that Amelia stitches her sampler. And in fact, I have a print of an engraving of Mickleham National School. Apparently by the time Amelia attends the school, it has been extended, but the extension was to the rear of the school, so it should have looked pretty much like this. And the school still stands, but it's been converted to 2 residential properties. Now, Amelia doesn't stay in the Mickleham area. Her brother George becomes head gardener at Nid Hall in Harrogate, North Yorkshire, and rumour has it was at Nid Hall that Edward VIII met Wallis Simpson for the first time. But by the 1901 census, Amelia has joined her brother in Harrogate, and she is working as a confectioner for a sweet merchant named Albany Matteson Corker. What a name and what a profession. My dream job. It does make me smile though, because when I look at Amelia's sampler, it just makes me think of sweeties. Amelia doesn't marry, she doesn't have children, and she dies at just 54 years of age. She leaves her estate to a niece and her husband, who is a cricket bat maker from Leeds. My reproduction is stitched on 36 count Liberty Gathering Grey from R&R Reproductions with Weeks Dye Works threads. And she is a teeny tiny 95 by 150 stitches. So I'd love to see her stitched on 40 count. And the chart is available from my website now. And I think I'm going to have to leave it there. I'm losing the light. It started to absolutely pour down. So I'll say thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.